Welcome to the ultimate guide that gets you started with the absolute best keybinds for Wrath of the Lich King, which we've created with literally the world's best players. So focus up, as if you played retail lately, you're in for a shock at just how many important spells and abilities you have access to in Wrath, which all require smooth keybinds. This guide has been designed for you to follow it in a step-by-step process while you're in-game. So if you're ready to totally revamp your keybinds, log into WoW and also move next to a target dummy. Then follow the steps as we go along, and by the end of it, you'll truly have world-class keybinds, drastically reducing the time it takes you to hit the right key at the right time down to the millisecond. This is a huge and necessary step to dominate PvP, especially when Wrath of the Lich King is so fast, particularly for us old-timers, which is most of us. After mastering your keybinds though, you'll need to master your class, which is exactly why our brand new platform is the place to be. We'll admit it, we may have gotten a little overhyped for Wrath, and so decided to create a brand new website dedicated to just Wrath of the Lich King. We took a risk investing in this, and you can take full advantage as we've already spent months working with the world's best Wrath players to create the ultimate courses for every class, and they're available right now at Skillcapped. With just one subscription, you can have access to our Wrath Classic site and retail all at a discount. We also have a 400 plus rating increase guarantee, so there's no risk. Use the link below so you don't miss out. Anyway, let's dive right into the guide. Step 1. Movement keys and camera control. Here there will be plenty of advice for noobs, which might be a snooze, but don't skip it as you'll learn something too. By default, movement keys are WASD, but the A and the D are by default turn left and turn right, coining the infamous term keyboard turning. This is a no-go as you'll be moving way too slow and Wrath is fast, so start strafing and you'll have a blast. Take a look at this keyboard turner. Clearly living life in the slow lane, and by comparison, we now have our strafer, speedy, handsome, and enjoying life. So where should you put your strafe keys? Q and E are the very best binds as it gives you easy access to the essential numbered binds 1 to 5. But if you're already used to strafing with A and D, you can stick with them. They're just slightly less optimal. Now we know why we should strafe, but why do pro players jump so much? If you've ever watched high-rated PvP before, you'll notice a silly amount of jumping taking place. And besides being obnoxious to look at, there's a huge advantage you gain from doing this, and it's related to strafing. You see, when you jump, you are now airborne for around 1 second. When jumping in the direction you want to go, you are heading in your desired direction for 1 second. It's during this time you're now free to take your fingers off your movement keys to use any instant cast ability of your choice. For example, if a mage wanted to Ice Lance with 2 while pressing Counterspell with F at the same time while moving, this is only possible if they free their hand by jumping first. Okay, so you've set up your strafe keys and now you'll be moving like a pro instead of really slow, and you can now access one of the best camera techniques that almost nobody uses properly. Go to interface and change your camera following style to never. This allows you to move in one direction while rotating your camera to look in another direction, widening your field of view. It's a technique that gathers more information, allowing you to react to things like your opponent's positioning while you're moving away from them. Most gladiators don't even use this technique, and we highly recommend you develop this skill as it's a big deal. Speaking of big deals, we've arrived to the next step. Step 2, grouping abilities. First, lay out your spells onto your action bars, and would you just look at this awful mess? It's hard to find anything you want on these action bars, and we're just standing still with all the time in the world. In combat, you'll need to see what your cooldowns are at any given time in an instant, so we'll need to clean these action bars up to be much more digestible. So you should group your abilities into the following categories: damage, healing, offensive cooldowns, defensive cooldowns, and mobility. For example, frequent damage abilities like Frost Bolt, Ice Lance, and Frostfire Bolt are grouped together for damage. Then crowd control like Frost Nova, Polymorph, and Counterspell are together, and so on. Now, if you quickly need to check when Counterspell or Deep Freeze is off cooldown, now you can glance at the crowd control section of your action bars. If you need to do something defensive, you can look at the defensive cooldowns area for Ice Block, Blink, and so on. Makes sense, right? Sure, it makes sense, and it's this process of grouping abilities that also allows us to figure out what the best possible keybinds are. Let us explain as we move into step 3, the best keybinds. So what are the best keybinds? Well, you can probably guess some of them, like 1, 2, 3, F, R, surely have to be good, right? Well, yes and no. You have probably heard that it's bad to just copy someone else's keybinds, which is absolutely true. Everyone's hands, keyboards, and setups differ, and so there will never be a world where it is a good idea to copy someone's keybinds. However, there is a world, the one we live in, where it's absolutely a good idea to copy the world's best player's keybinding logic, which is exactly what we're about to do. We're first going to identify what are categorically the best keybinds on a keyboard for WoW, and then we're going to figure out which spells should be assigned to what keybind. And make sure you follow this section closely, as the first ideas that come to mind when selecting keybinds are often deeply flawed and will in fact just slow you down. So, what are the best keybinds? Well, let's break this down as a tier list, since who doesn't love a tier list? The very best keybinds available to you in WoW, which make it into our S tier, are R, F, C, mouse button 4 and 5, numbers 1 through 4, and either Q, E, or A, D, depending on what your movement binds are. These are S-tier keybinds, as they are the fastest keys you can hit on your keyboard while easily maintaining control over your character, especially when utilizing the jump technique we spoke about earlier. For example, it's difficult to press 1 while strafing left, but if you jump left first, it couldn't be easier. And before you ask, what about the mouse wheel? Don't worry, we'll get to that in the targeting section of this guide. Moving on to the A tier, we have tilde, 5, T, G, and V. These make the A tier since they are fairly quick to reach without limiting your movement, but these binds don't make it to our S tier as they require you to stretch your fingers slightly more to do so. And then we have our B tier, which follows the same trend of harder to press equals, unsurprisingly lower on our tier list. The B tier binds are Z and X, and if you're not convinced, try jumping left and pressing 1, then jump left and press Z or X, and you'll see the difference. And lastly, we're at rock bottom, the C tier. Here we have 6YHB, which nobody will be mad at you if you decide to not use it all since they take forever to reach, especially for those with smaller hands. And there you have it. Here's a handy snapshot of our tier list so it can guide you. But please, don't make the mistake of assigning the best spells to the best binds thinking everything will be fine. It won't. As an example, one of a mage's many S-tier spells would be Ice Block. A noob may be tempted to give this an S-tier keybind as it's an S-tier spell, like the number 1. This is clearly a terrible idea as it takes up a precious S-tier bind for a spell used once every few minutes. Not good. Instead, let's put this mage's Frostbolt on 1, Ice Lance on 2, and Sheep on E. Wow, amazing! We have spells mages use constantly and on the best keybinds, so we're going to be using our best binds most of the time for a comfortable and enjoyable experience. While we're on a roll, let's go ahead and put some A-tier binds onto some spells that are slightly less frequently used due to having a short cooldown. Cone of Cold on 5 and Frost Nova on T is looking good. So, frequently used spells get the S and A-tier binds. So how about a longer cooldown like Icy Veins? Well, let's try the B tier and see how this looks by assigning Veins to X. And now we have another problem. While choosing X follows the logic of sparsely used spells being assigned to lower tier binds, pressing Icy Veins is never going to feel good on X when your next spell after Icy Veins is probably Frostbolt or Sheep, which are near the top of the keyboard, not the bottom. So, as we know, modifier keys are used to modify the normal action of another key when pressed together. The best modifiers to use for WoW are Shift, being the best, and then Alt and Control being similarly useful thereafter. Modifiers at a glance seem like an easy hack to get as many spells as possible into the desired S-tier key locations. Again, this logic can lead to some awful keybinds if you're not careful, so listen up as there's 3 rules you'll want to follow when deciding what the best modifier keybinds are for you. Rule number 1, think about spell rotations or combos when it comes to assigning your keybinds. Let's think back to that Icy Veins problem, with 1 and X being very far away from each other, but in your rotation would be used at the same time. This means putting Icy Veins on Shift 1 with Frostbolt still on number 1 will make the rotation seamless and saves you time. The second rule to follow will use up most of your best keybinds, but can enable you to be an excellent arena player. The rule is to assign modifier keybinds for whatever focus macros you have to the keybinds your normal cast spells are. For example, as a mage, if your counter spell is the number 3, your focus counter spell is now Shift 3. Or as a lock, if your fear is 4, your focus fear will now be Shift 4. This keeps things easy and intuitive, which is what we like. Now we understand these first two rules, it's time to smush them together so we can get your modifiers working with your most common combos, or spell sequences, or spell rotations, whatever you want to call it. Whatever spells you use together need to work together, not just in game, but on your keyboard too. Here's an example to show you just how important this rule actually is. Here's a rogue, and he has his focus kick on Shift +1, which is an S tier modifier keybind. His focus shadow step is on C, an S tier keybind. Individually, these are great binds for very important spells, but when we think of them working together, these keybinds are, well, trash. Here's why. Neither of these abilities are on global cooldown, and both of them are often used together in clutch moments. However, to use Focus Shadow Step on C, he will need to make sure his finger is off the Shift key in order to first Shadow Step, and then, once he's Shadow Stepped, he needs to combine Shift with 1. This means the rogue will actually cause an unnecessary delay between the Shadow Step and the kick due to not assigning his keybinds with spell rotations in mind. So, you'll need to consider what kind of spell sequences you may use and ensure they all run smoothly together. In this rogue's case, he should put Focus Shadow Step on Shift C so he opens his rotation with Shift when stepping to a focus target. Then all of the rogue's other focus crowd controls should also be on a Shift modifier. This way, he can focus Gouge, Kick, Blind, etc., all while holding Shift down from the start, leading to a very quick and smooth playstyle. Again, we recommend selecting your keybinds in front of a training dummy so you can practice your best moves in real time while selecting your keybinds so you can fast track this process. Alright guys, we're near the end of the most complicated part about making great keybinds as we finally hit the third and final rule, which is more of a desire than a rule as it cannot always be followed. The rule is, keep clutch defensives away from modifiers. Simply put, if your bubble is on T as a paladin, then you're sure to hit that faster than Shift T, so follow this rule when possible. This is simple stuff, but again, the easiest and most obvious solutions can get you into a lot of trouble when keybinding, so here's the clever part you need to think about when it comes to rule number 3, which goes back to rule number 1. Think about spell rotations. Let's pretend we're a warrior this time. Our PvP trinket is on the number 4. Our spell reflection is Shift 4. This seems great. After all, warriors often trinket to spell reflect something, right? Right? Well, right and wrong. Yes, warriors often trinket to spell reflect something, but these keybinds are wrong, very wrong, trash tier level wrong. Reason being, spell rotations. Think back to our rogue who can now focus Shadow Step and crowd control seamlessly due to sticking with the same modifier for clutch rotations. This warrior is causing a delay between two things which should be usable at the same time in clutch moments, as he's using one keybind without a modifier, Trinket on 4, and one with a modifier, Spell Reflect on Shift +4. Therefore, it would be preferred that PvP Trinket is on 4 with Spell Reflection on 5, but also acceptable for them to be on Shift +4 and Shift +5. Just so long as they share being either on a modifier keybind or off a modifier keybind for the smoothest possible gameplay. Phew! Okay, so we finally got our keybinds mapped out to literally pro player standards. Thanks, Skillcapped! We've certainly come a long way, but there's one really important thing left for us to do, which is figure out the best targeting keybinds possible. Here you have Target Arena 123, Focus Arena 123, and Target Party Member 1-2 and Self. Note that you will need to make macros for targeting Arena 123 and focusing Arena 123, but the plus side is you can use these macros as cooldown trackers with a show tool tip line. Depending on your role, you should adopt 2 out of these 3 options depending on your preference. As a damage dealer, you should have Arena Target 1-3 and Focus 1-3, which is going to take up to 6 of our best keybinds. But don't worry, we purposely didn't list the best targeting keybinds in the earlier tier list, so you have them saved for this very moment, and those are mouse wheel scroll up, middle mouse button, and mouse wheel down. Depending on whether you value targeting or focus more, put Target Arena 1 with mouse wheel scroll up, Arena 2 on middle mouse button click, and Arena 3 on mouse wheel scroll down. The second best choices for arena targeting would be 1-2-3, QWE, or ASD, depending on movement keys, or ZXC. You can also choose to use these with modifiers if that feels comfortable for you. You also have more options like using a modifier with your mouse wheel, such as Alt plus mouse wheel up to change focus for example, but that does mean that you do not want to use Alt for any other keybind then. Otherwise, you'll constantly change your target or focus target by accident. Alright guys, please subscribe to our channel if you found this helpful, and remember, the best way to get a head start in Wrath of the Lich King is with our epic courses over at Skillcapped that we've created with the world's best players. So check us out, and thanks for watching.